So I figure it's time to start seeing if this motor will run in its current state, um, even roughly. So what I've done is I've cleaned up the bottom of it, and along with the transaxle, because it was just coated with oil. And I actually hooked up a battery directly to the starter with a jumper from the solenoid to the hot, bypassing all the car cabling. And the starter does turn over. It's a little sluggish, but it turns over. So I think the next step here is to pull the plugs and put some Marvel mystery oil in each of the cylinders and lubricate the cylinders nicely. And I did add some Marvel mystery oil to the motor oil that is in the motor right now, albeit dirty. So that's down in the crankcase. Hopefully that'll clean things up down there. And so I'm going to pull the plugs, have a look at them, and then probably try cranking with the key switch. Once I check voltages from the key switch down to the coil and everything, make sure I'm not going to catch anything on fire. There is always that. So I've pulled plugs 3 and 4. Of course, they're filthy. And so no surprises there. I'll probably vacuum out those areas before I introduce any fluids, at least it pull some debris down in there. Also, I've disabled the fuel pump. I don't want that spurting any remaining fuel that might be in the tank, because if you remember, we had problems with that when we were doing the floor pan. So I just cut the hot wire to the fuel pump. And let me go ahead and take out these other 2 plugs, vacuum out the ports for the plugs. Also want to look at the distributor, make sure it is an OE distributor. Sometimes people put weird distributors on these things, and it'd be nice to know that it's a Bosch distributor. And of course, those plug wires are fried, and I'm sure the cap is fried, so all that'll need to be replaced. But if I can get a little spark and get this thing to respond, that would be huge. All right, we'll get a little mystery oil in here. Just a couple ounces or so. See if that helps loosen things up. So it looks like it's got a pretty fresh set of points in it. And you know, there's a condenser existing. The inside of the cap didn't look too bad. You know, the rotor, it's not spring loaded, which my past experience is spring loaded is for to set your rev limit. So not sure about that. I'm going to try to find a number on the housing on the distributor, see if it's aftermarket or something else. So I never did find a number on the distributor, but I put it all back together, and I've got some hot wires rigged up here. I put the key in the ignition and turned it on. I got 12 volts to the coil. However, the starter's not turning over, so something's missing there. So I checked the fuse box, and there are a couple of dodgy fuses. Actually, there's quite a few. I mean, I'm going to pull up a diagram for that. I know white one there, 5 from the end was blown, and the red one was blown. So we may have some others that are blown. But I got to find out what's what here and see if it's just a fuse on the starter. So I'll pull up a diagram. So I spun it over without the spark plugs in it, going back to the method that worked before, and it spun pretty quick, not having to have any compression. But we may have a problem here, Houston, because we've got a bunch of the Marvel mystery oil dripping out of the exhaust pipe on cylinders 3 and 4, which tells me there's a bad ring or bad valve, exhaust valve, something's going on. So next step is to use this same technique, because I can't do it with the starter switch, to measure compression on the cylinders. Oh joy. Well, that's not very encouraging, but it's not spinning very fast. And it is holding something, I mean, under 30. I don't know. Let's see what happens on 1. Okay, plugs back in, starting off with cylinder 2. Same there. I don't know. Well, I was wrong about that. Cylinder 4's got the same as the rest of them. It's still spinning slow, even though I got the plugs out of bank 1. So I pulled the plugs out of bank 2, cylinders 3 and 4, and it spun up more. And you can see I got more compression just by it spinning up better. So a lot of this has to do with the battery and the way I'm trying to spin it over. However, when I pulled cylinder 4 spark plug, there was a bunch of oil on it, so I think cylinder 4 is going to have bad rings. We'll find that out in just a second. So before I could get a compression reading on cylinder 3, either my battery gave up or the starter did, or who knows. I am inconclusive as to what's going on here. I suspect that there's a lot better compression than I think. Maybe even on cylinder 3 as well. I just need to get that starter to spin quicker. So perhaps I can get that starter rebuilt. I used to be able to do that locally fairly inexpensively. That and a good strong battery, and keep plugging at it. Sure be nice to get it to start off the key switch. There is that. So that's all I got for today. It's hotter than 3 shades of hell out here right now, so I'm going to call it a day, and we'll pick this back up. Thanks, guys.